charging down the inside and tries to brake on the wet patch, he'll just go straight on and lose several places.
As we saw with McKee down there into La Source, of course, on that wet part of the track, locking up his wheels. No, really nothing he could do about that. More of a passenger at that point on the slippery circuit. Incident involving cars 14 and 21 under investigation. Also 22 under investigation for a jump start. Elenas in the pits. Oh, and is this the weekend? Well, last weekend he didn't score any points. Is this where the championship starts to come undone for Tio Elenas? Such fantastic consistency all the way through the year. No points scored in Hungary, and it looks like after recouping to finish 8th yesterday, there will be no points scored for the pole sitter today. Yeah, real shame there for Elenas. Not really much he could have done about that for me, but that's how it goes sometimes. You have the good weekends, the bad weekends, and you've got to just fight through the scatter of the results and the difficult things that happen to you in order to get the result at the end of the year. Daly's got a great run on McKee coming through Blanchimont. It looks to be only a matter of time between these guys now as they run side by side into bus stop, and Regalia's there as well. Daly knows he's got to get past McKee. Sims not only is escaping up the road to the tune of over a second a lap, but McKee is going to have a drive-through penalty for causing that collision at the start. So Daly will want to get past him, but won't actually need to, because McKee will have to take that drive-through penalty. Well, you say that, of course, but if McKee has, for example, a little bit of damage or is a little bit slower than Daly through this section of the race, then Daly could lose out to Regalia, Yellow League, right behind him, unnecessarily. So actually, he probably does need to make progress past McKee, depending on when McKee decides to come in and take that penalty. Daly will be hoping against hope that he decides to take it immediately and frees him some clear air to play with. And it looks like we had a pretty good battle coming down into Les Combes as well between Koyas and Fiat. As Regalia defends from Yellow coming down into Rivage. So this is a jump start replay for Carmen Jorda. Lights on. Yeah, just creeping a little bit. In fact, I think she was just a little bit ahead of her grid box anyway in the way that she parked. Well, Carmen Jorda then with jump start penalty. So not going well for Bamboo today. McKee with a drive through for his obviously contact with Elenas down there at turn 1, and now Carmen Jorda with a drive-through as well. But Lewis Williamson in the other Bamboo doing a stand-up job right now in P8, which will become P7 when his teammate McKee takes his drive-through. Sims, though, leading with some aplomb at the moment. He's absolutely firing through. He's a second quicker than anybody through the second sector, and that's where he's starting to pull out already a 4-second gap, Sims, over his rivals. And we've got a retirement down there in the Trident car as we get a replay of what happened to Zonzini coming through Blanchimont. And he's got a flat rear right, has he? Yeah, rear right puncture. Yeah. So perhaps camera suggesting due to the running wide in Blanchimont. So McKee takes his drive-through penalty, and he does so immediately at the end of that lap. That will be manna from heaven for Connor Daly, who is now released onto a clear track ahead of him, and he has a 5.4-second deficit now to Alexander Sims that he's got to try and cut back over the next 9 laps. It's game on here at Spa. Yeah, steering wheel cocked slightly left for McKee as he came through the pit lane, so quite clearly a little bit of damage was holding him up. I'm not sure how long he would have been able to hold off the pack anyway. But we have an ART on ART battle now for second place. As Zamparelli and Vishoyu doing battle, and Zamparelli gets around the Arden driver into Les Combes. So that's another position for Dino, up into 8th place from his 10th place starting position. First sector, Connor Daly, just a 10th off Alexander Sims. It's this second sector, though, that's going to be interesting because Sims has been, so far this race, a second faster than anybody else. So we'll wait to see if Daly's able to start pulling in that gap as Zamparelli now starts to hunt down Lewis Williamson ahead in the Bamboo. Yep, and we have seen this from Sims so many times during his career. I remember racing him in British F3, and he was very, very effective in wet and drying conditions, and we're seeing that today. He really is finding
the dry parts of the racetrack out there and making them work for him.
As Sims goes purple in Sector 2, Connor Daly actually sets exactly the same time for that middle sector of 56.5.
You know, sometimes there's 1-2 corners when the track's like this where you're missing something, a small dry patch or an element where you could be making a massive amount of time, and then you just jump to match your competitors, and we have yet another puncture.
It's Zonzini, the same, he's still bringing that one in, mate. So Zonzini doing the smart thing and staying off track so that everybody that's coming through to lap him doesn't get caught up. The gap has increased. Sims to Daly now 5.6 seconds as Sims sets the fastest lap of the race, 2 minutes 7.324, but with Daly running 2 minutes 7 as well, and Regalia and Yellowly on 2 minutes 7s, that the pace which they quite clearly could have been running from the start of this race had it not been for that damaged car of McKee, just holding them up for the first couple of laps.
And Fontana bangs in the fastest lap of the race from 15th place, some 2 seconds quicker than those running immediately in front of him. So it's going to be interesting to see if he can make progress towards the points.
Zamparelli just 0.2 behind Williamson in the battle for the final points today, and Zamparelli now taking it to Williamson on the wet part of the track, and Zamparelli is slicing through the field today. Wonderful stuff as we now pull back to the battle between Niederhauser and Venturini, but great move from Dino.
Yeah, ballsy move from Zamparelli. What he managed to do there was keep his car, squeeze his rival to one side of the dry part of the racetrack and keep his car on the dry element before moving across to finish his braking fully online. So using the conditions to his advantage.
Great stuff from Dino Zamparelli. That Marussia car clearly hooked up today. One wonders what Elenas could have done in that car had he not taken that damage at the start. So 2 cars into the pits, one of them Fontana to get that rear right change, the other one is car number 26 of Kujala. So we pull back now to the fight with Sasilva, and behind him Fumanelli and Fontana catching up to the back of both of them, having set that blistering fastest lap of the race. So a replay then of Dino Zamparelli. You see him on the wet part of the track, but
so before he brakes, he just moves across onto that dry section and then almost squeezes his rival onto the curb there and says, "This is my bit of track. I paid for it. My entry fees have paid for this piece of track, and you're not coming anywhere near it.
Not yours. Not yours." Silva doing his best to hold back Fumanelli, using just enough of the track to do so. Not really unfairly squeezing the man, but Fumanelli getting right back onto his rear wing, down the start-finish straight. This is the battle for 13th place on track. So Silva 13th, Fumanelli 14th, and now Fontana has caught up onto the back of that battle, and another 2 minutes 7 lap for Alex Fontana.
You really do get a feel as a driver for, you can almost draw a map in your head of where the wet patches are on the corner that you're coming up to, and you can almost see it in your mind. Where do I need to put my car in order to take the advantage here?
As Niederhauser runs on Fumanelli, Fumanelli will have the inside for Lecombe, and wise to the move of the Swiss driver. Meanwhile, Connor Daly in second has pulled the gap back to Alexander Sims by a full second. Just 4.4 now. I wonder how much that, though, is Sims just being conservative and maybe even already thinking about just doing all he needs to win the race, and how much of that is down to Daly, because Sims's last lap was about a second off as McKee finally decides to call it a day.
Yeah, we
probably
did
with
spot,
that damage steering.
Yeah, we did spot a little bit of damage for him as he came through the pit lane, so quite clearly not too much point in continuing, and he'll take a good set of tyres then into the next round at Monza.
So both front row starters won't finish this race, and that's Fontana. Oh no, it's not, it's Gomez. Sami Gomez with a flat rear left. Wow, we're getting a lot of flats today.
Yeah, interesting. Perhaps a little bit of debris out on track, because you wouldn't have thought the tyres are under, you know, particular amounts of stress with the low grip on the circuit.
No, absolutely not. That's very interesting to see then. So a rear right failure and a rear left failure. I'm seeing also Jack Harvey is in the pits. with his engine cover off. But Sims across the line sets the fastest lap of the race at 2 minutes 7.1, and the gap over Daly is increased to 5.2. So Sims then clearly just doing what he needs to do at the moment, and not doing anything silly, just keeping that gap where he needs it to be.
Yeah, those guys down at Arden put that car together overnight, and so perhaps slightly hurriedly put together. Of course, it was important for Jack because he needed to take his penalty in this race and not allow it to carry over to the first race in Monza.
Absolutely. Now back on board though with Niederhauser in this fight with Giovanni Venturini ahead. Niederhauser, much better run through Eau Rouge than the Italian ahead of him. Gets the run down the Kemmel straight once again, but it's much earlier on the straight than it was last lap. Niederhauser with the clear pace advantage and gets through on him as Carlos Sainz pulls up to the party as well.
Yeah, that smoke you saw from underneath Venturini's car is the plank. There's a wooden plank underneath the car that wears away as it rubs against the racetrack. So low is the ride height of these cars, so nothing to worry about there for him. It tends to ground out a little bit as you go over the crest of Eau Rouge. He's quite low, though.
He's running very low, isn't he?
Very low.
Needs some lights under it as well. So we're running 6 laps to go here at Spa. It's Alexander Sims who leads from Connor Daly. Regalia is 3rd and will increase his championship lead if he finishes in that position. Behind him is Yeloli in 4th. Koyas is 5th. They're having a great ding-dong at the moment. Koyas right on the back of Nick Yeloli. Fiat is 6th. Zamparelli is 7th. And Lewis Williamson currently P8. And the point scorers for today's race. Sorry, mate, go.
So stalemate again, and these guys grinding away at each other, trying to make progress.
As we get a look at Dino Zamparelli, having a look at yesterday's race winner, Fiat, and Fiat makes a mistake into the bus stop. Zamparelli will feel he can have a nibble at him coming down the straight, and a great exit from Zamparelli compared to Fiat. And down the start-finish straight now, Dino Zamparelli having arguably one of his best races of the season, flies past yesterday's race winner. Dino Zamparelli is on fire today. Great run from Dino.
Yeah, lovely piece of racecraft there. Managed to put Kvyat out on the wet curb, but here we are into Eau Rouge. Yeah, Kvyat's made a really smart move there. What he's decided to do is just back off at the base of Eau Rouge, make sure he takes it flat, which is not a cruise at all at this stage of the race for these GP3 boys. And here we go. He's drafting past him and should have the line on the way into Les Coups.
Lovely retake of position then from Kvyat, but Zamparelli's not letting him have it, and he's locked up that front left. You can see the flat spot on that as he comes into Les Combes. But Zamparelli with 5 laps remaining, looking like the raciest guy out there today.
Yeah, 2 locked up fronts now for Zamparelli, so that may haunt him later on in the race because he locked the inside front into La Source as well, and you do feel them in terms of vibration. A flat spot is exactly what it says on the tin, bumps away as you head down the straights.
So running down now into Pouhon. Zamparelli back to 7th, Kvyat back to 6th. And a great fight between these two guys. Zamparelli, who started 10th and has definitely been the man on the move today, making his way up healthily into the points and taking a big scrap as yesterday's race winner gets a little loose and sideways over the curbs, and definitely being harried by the Marussia driver.
Still plenty of mist out today. There was a question in my mind as to whether we were going to get this race started when I woke up this morning here at Spa, because the visibility was not quite what we would have needed to begin this GP3 race. Luckily that's lifted, you can still see it above the trees. Here we go then. Zamparelli manages to find himself a position on the dry part of the track. That out on the wet curbs, which afford almost no grip due to, you know, the paint reacting with the water, and locks up on the inside right and gets it done.
And then coming down the hill into Eau Rouge, Kvyat backed out, got that run flat out through Eau Rouge. Great exit in the slipstream, and alongside, just as Niederhauser did the lap before, starts to edge him over onto the slightly wetter part of the track, and a good clean battle between those two.
Yeah, there's 2 considerations when you're going down to a wet and drying corner like that. There's A, putting your car in the right place, and B, putting your opponent's car in the wrong place, and he did both.
Very, very smart driving then from the Russian. And Pirelli, we see him pulling in under the slipstream with 4 laps left to run in Spa. It is still